Who would have thought, guys? Who would have thought? CBS's new evening anchor is a staunch pro-Israel Zionist that was handpicked by CBS's new editor-in-chief, Bari Weiss. It's Tony Dokoupil. He is actually a converted Jew. He has children in Israel right now. His wife's also a staunch pro-Israel Jewish Zionist, also with his children in Israel. And he was very much so handpicked by Bari Weiss for this role. This information is just coming out today. And it's not shocking, to say the least. We kind of knew that this was going to be what would happen under a David Ellison empire, David Ellison being the new owner of CBS. And Bari Weiss, with the Free Press, of course, handpicking him because she wanted to have more faces in mainstream media that represent the average American, even though the vast majority of CBS's viewers, which would be left-leaning, are in opposition to Israel's actions and to Israel not allowing Palestinians to have freedom. So for those who don't know, Tony Dokoupil, he has previously said he's previously received some criticism for how he operates on CBS and some of the things he's said when pro-Palestine advocates have came on before and mentioned their previous books. But I do want to show you guys this clip really quick so you guys can just get a better understanding of exactly.
Look, this has been a very long weekend. This has been a very tough situation. First of all, I should say thank you to everybody, our colleagues, friends who reached out to ask how I'm doing, how my family's doing. Heard from a lot of people online as well. It's tough. I have an 11-year-old and a 14-year-old who live in Israel. They live there with their mother, my ex-wife. They are safe, but just as a father, I think people can understand if anybody is firing rockets in the direction of your children without regard to whether they are struck or not, you're going to feel a thing or two. So it's been a roller coaster weekend.
Have you been able to talk to them?
I talked to them as the sirens went off the first time, but the rockets are just step one. I mean, that's the beginning of it. I've been sad and angry and disgusted to see the news that unfolded in the 48 hours since.
So that's just a bit of context about his background. You guys see where he's coming from. And because of this background, he clearly can't give an unbiased sort of reporting, which is exactly why Bari Weiss loves him, of course. And previously, they also had somebody come on his show, Ta-Nehisi, and he was speaking about his book and his experiences going into the occupied West Bank. And I want you guys to listen to the questioning and the way that Tony just basically went after him when he was on a morning show. Morning shows aren't evening news. You're not supposed to, it's not the type of environment where you're really just hammering somebody question after question, but you could tell this is very much so a personal matter to Tony. And just go ahead and take a listen to this.
I want to dive into the Israel-Palestine section of the book. It's the largest section of the book. And I have to say, when I read the book, I imagine if I took your name out of it, took away the awards and the acclaim, took the cover off the book, the publishing house goes away, the content of that section would not be out of place in the backpack of an extremist. And so then I found myself wondering, why does Ta-Nehisi Coates, who I've known for a long time, read his work for a long time, very talented, smart guy, leave out so much? Why leave out that Israel is surrounded by countries that want to eliminate it? Why leave out that Israel deals with terror groups that want to eliminate it? Why not detail anything of the first and the second intifada, the cafe bombings, the bus bombings, the little kids blown to bits? And is it because you just don't believe that Israel, in any condition, has a right to exist?
Well, I would say
I'm gonna stop there. If you want to actually listen to that, you can go ahead and find the interview. The reason I'm showing that is, first off, they always do this, guys. I'm done pretending, I'm done trying to tolerate this. Every single damn time you mention what Israel's doing, you don't believe Israel has a right to exist? You don't. It's the most annoying question I'm absolutely sick of. No other state, no other nation are we constantly hammered with, do you believe Israel has a right to exist? If you want my honest answer, no. No. There you go. Are you happy now? I don't think any state has a right to exist. They simply exist. So this obsession with wanting to know whether people think Israel has a right to exist, they exist. They simply exist. And no damn state that's currently stealing people's land, that's wiping out an entire population, that's colonizing, that's just actively stealing land and pushing people out has a real right to exist. So I want to make my stance on that very, very clear. Now, after this interview, he got a lot of blowback. CBS got a lot of blowback. CBS actually ended up having an internal meeting, an internal conference with other staff at CBS, where they talked about how the way he was reporting the questions he was asking on the morning show weren't okay, because he's basically implying, by you mentioning what's going on in the apartheid occupied West Bank, you are supporting extremism. He's saying that book is something I would see in the backpack of an extremist. And he felt comfortable enough asking that because, of course, again, like I said, he's a staunch pro-Israel Zionist. He has children in Israel, so that book is from the backpack of an extremist. Bari Weiss now is, like I said, the new editor and in chief of CBS. And last year, when this happened, she actually went out and she actually hosted a podcast specifically on this piece, on the fact that Tony Dokoupil had this interview. So here's the podcast that she gave regarding it. And I just want to go ahead and play what she had to say regarding this, because you guys have to understand now, this is the new editor-in-chief of CBS. She picked Tony to go into this role a year after she did this podcast on his questioning during that book tour that Ta-Nehisi was giving.
Republican on when they have someone who, is a vociferous advocate for the Second Amendment on, when they have any number of people on, you would expect CBS to do its job, would challenge that person.
Yes.
So why in this case was it unacceptable? Why in this case did it lead not only to that call, you heard some of the audio from it, but today to a DEI session with some DEI guy called Donald Grant. You should go look up his Instagram. There's some really colorful and amazing things on it.
Something else.
As if that's the solution.
Yeah.
And we should note that CBS's chief legal correspondent, a woman called Jan Crawford.
What a hero.
Balls of steel.
What a hero, Jan
Balls of
Crawford.
steel in that call.
And then I want to show you one earlier part here as well.
Missed the interview that Tony Dokoupil did on CBS, and this is just him doing what journalists do, doing his job. Meeting in which Dokoupil was trashed by his bosses in front of his colleagues for asking questions. His job. Let's take a listen.
And there are times we fail our audiences and we fail each other. We're in one of those times right now, and it's been growing.
So, and then this CBS call was basically that internal meeting I was mentioning. So this is what I want to say. The only DEI that's going on here is this chick, Bari Weiss, putting a pro-Israel anchor in place, because the only reason he's been handpicked for this role, he was installed, is because he's pro-Israel. That's DEI. He converted to Judaism, like I mentioned, and Bari Weiss is also Jewish. There, again, this is not. I'm not trying to direct hate towards any group of people. Absolutely not. I do want to highlight, though, how I do have questions regarding the fact that is there a level of in-group picking when she's choosing somebody who, of course, is pro-Israel? That's a given. Yes, they're installing him because of that. And also because of the fact that he is somebody that she affiliates with. He's also a Jewish Zionist. David Ellison, who bought CBS, is also. So it seems that they're intentionally creating this culture. And Bari Weiss, who's apparently right-wing conservative, quote unquote, the reason I say that is because they don't like DEI when it comes to African Americans. Okay, they don't like DEI when it comes to any other minority. Is this not DEI? Is this not a DEI Israel hire? Is this not a DEI Jewish Zionist hire? I wonder. I'm asking the question. Is it not? Why? Why? What is the difference? Were they looking based on qualifications for the job, or were they looking based on allegiance to Israel? Because if it's not based on their qualifications, and it's clearly an installment of somebody that's going to portray the narrative that they want the mainstream media to have, then that's DEI. That's clearly choosing somebody based on anything other than their qualifications for the job. So yet they call themselves conservatives. That's what I love the most. These people call themselves conservative, but it seems like they get to hand pick whenever they want to implement those sort of conservative values. Being pro-Israel triumphs your want for equality in the workplace, and by equality, I don't mean having people of every single race and positions, but just equality of capability. You know, choosing people and being equal around the board by choosing people based on their qualifications. Apparently, that is second to making sure that they love Israel first. And to me, that seems like the epitome of a DEI hire. They won't say that, though. They're going to try to manufacture something to make it seem otherwise, but that's what it is. It's a DEI Israel hire. And I have a serious issue with that. I have a serious issue with the fact that our media is absolutely taken over. It's absolutely taken over by the pro-Israel narrative, as if it wasn't already. As if it wasn't already. As if from the beginning of media all the way up until 2025, there wasn't a stranglehold with the pro-Israel narrative. As if you thought it couldn't get any worse. It's gotten so much worse. And I'm not just talking about, of course, this new news anchor, this new evening news anchor for CBS, previously on the morning show, now the news anchor. I'm not just talking about that. We have David Ellison now, of course, doing this with CBS. What is he in the process of doing? Well, he's trying to purchase Warner Bros. Okay. By purchasing Warner Bros., what's happening below the umbrella? CNN is part of the cable television networks under the Warner Bros. Discovery empire. David Ellison's bid for Warner Bros. Discovery includes the television cable network CNN. And what recently came out in the news? What very, very recently came out, actually just yesterday, not just the fact that, of course, David Ellison is putting a bid down for a hostile bid down to go for Warner Bros. After Netflix, but in the fine, somewhere in the Washington Post, it actually said that the Ellisons told Donald Trump that if they help him acquire Warner Bros. Discovery, then they're going to make sure to radically shift CNN. They're going to make sure to do radical changes to CNN. Let me go ahead and show you exactly what was said, so that way you understand what's here it is. What's actually going to happen long term here? Let me go ahead and share my screen so you guys can see this again. There we go. David Ellison allegedly offered assurances to Trump administration officials that if he bought Warner Bros., he would make major changes to CNN for them. Now, what are those major changes going to look like? Aside from, just making Trump look good, which is what Trump cares about. We know that's how Donald Trump is. He just wants to make sure his ego is boosted. That's separate. That's one thing David Ellison's going to do to make sure he has Trump help him out with this deal. And what's the second thing going to be? A complete restructuring of CNN, as if CNN is not already pro-Israel. As if CNN is not already pro-Israel. Imagine how much worse it can get. Things can always get worse than they already are. That's what I think we should have all learned by now. Things can always get worse. Just when you think you've hit rock bottom, you'll realize there's another bottom. That's how it is. So they're going to go ahead and occupy CNN more than it's already taken over, and they're gonna make radical shifts to it. And when I say radical shifts, I'll give you guys examples. Do you know the Stop Anti-Semitism organization? It recently labeled Miss Rachel top 10 finalists for Anti-Semite of the year 2025. That organization. There have been journalists that have talked publicly on news, and they've referred to the occupied West Bank as Israeli occupied West Bank. That is simply the definition of the West Bank. It's Israeli occupied. Stop Anti-Semitism goes after those journalists and tries to destroy their careers simply for using the word Israeli occupied in their reporting, because apparently the word Israeli occupied is anti-Semitic, because to them, they believe that Judea and Samaria, as they call the Israeli occupied West Bank, is God-given to them. And by stating that they are occupying it is an anti-Semitic trope, or it's an anti-Semitic term. So now imagine you have somebody like Larry and David Ellison that are trying to take foothold of CNN. CNN already doesn't use the word occupied much in its reporting of the West Bank at all. But now there's going to be actual rules in place where never use occupied, neither in reporting, neither in the articles, all across the board. That's one example. You'll never see the word Palestine used in a headline, ever. And unless it's the word Free Palestine in quotations, when they're referring to the slogan Free Palestine, what you'll always see is Palestinian, and they'll always say Palestinian state, but they'll never say the state of Palestine. Actually, very few Western outlets will ever say the state of Palestine. For example, the United Nations voted on a resolution for the state of Palestine. That's just what's going on. They'll always say instead for a Palestinian state. Why? Why not just say the actual term? Because the word Palestine, to stop anti-Semitism, to the Anti-Defamation League, the word in of itself carries weight that they don't want the mainstream media putting out there. Because when you start to use the word Palestine consistently, you start to create an idea in somebody's head of what that state would look like. And words are potent, as we've all learned. Words have meaning. Words are powerful, and they don't want to entice people with that sort of idea. They don't want to legitimize the idea of the state of Palestine, which is why they make sure to omit it from headlines unless they make it look like it's part of a bad slogan. And they've been trying to do that by people using the quote "Free Palestine," and in which case they'll go ahead and do that. So now imagine that David Ellison goes ahead and gets CNN as he hopes. What did they already say they're going to do? They said they're going to bring CNN and CBS together. They're going to have them together. Bari Weiss is going to be very much so a part of that. They already went ahead and put Tony as the new evening anchor for CBS. What do you think's going to happen with CNN? Okay. CNN recently did an investigative report showing that children in Gaza were buried under rubble. Is an investigative report like that ever going to be done again? Absolutely not. As if CNN isn't already bad, it can only get worse. There is a complete occupation and takeover in media happening before our eyes. They are actively, and when I say they, I mean the foreign state of Israel, actively geolocates and geofences churches and schools. By geofencing, it means you're putting certain parameters where you can specifically target ads on campuses, on church grounds, within a 100-meter radius. These foreign nations can now specifically target strategic advertisement in certain areas. Churches, hospitals, schools, to push specific propaganda in specific churches across the United States. So they can make sure that they have Zionist strongholds in those areas. This is actively happening. We're seeing the Foreign Ministry of Israel allocating over $725 million in 2026 to Hasbara, which is the Hebrew word for state propaganda, information propaganda. And I really can't take it. The amount, it's infuriating. It's total occupation. It's total censorship. I made a TikTok a couple weeks ago related to Israel, the most basic TikTok ever of just something that Israel was doing in Lebanon, of Israel striking Lebanon. It got 2 million views, and then immediately it got a violation and it was removed. It followed every single guideline and they offer no reason. Now, this is, of course, one example. It's happened to many and many and many of my videos where everything's starting to skyrocket and then all of a sudden it plateaus or it crashes like very abruptly because the algorithm. Larry Ellison, David Ellison's son. So David Ellison is over here and he's going to make sure he now owns CBS, Paramount, Warner Bros. CNN is something that he's really trying to take over while his father, Larry Ellison, is in the midst of acquiring TikTok. What is left? What is left? Genuinely, what is left? There is nothing left. There is nothing left. And because of the fact that Netflix was able to win the deal for Warner Bros., David Ellison went berserk. And he was upset because Warner Bros. CEOs weren't even returning his phone calls or text messages, as he specifically said. Then he had his father. He cried to his father, Larry Ellison, and he had Larry Ellison go to Trump and say, hey, you have to stop this deal using antitrust laws, use whatever you have to do because we're not happy. And if you stop this deal, then we'll make sure that CNN never says anything bad about you again. It's a mafia, dude. It's a mafia. This is not normal. It's a total mafia. There is no difference between them and any other mafia. There really isn't, except one is socially accepted. One is counted as legitimate. It is a pro-Israel mafia. And this is how they work. And if they don't like somebody, they will fabricate lies and they will use the legal system against that person. If they don't like something going on, they will use the legal system against it and they will just fabricate lies. And it feels like the bad guys are just always winning. I'm going to be honest. It feels like I don't know about you guys. After October 7th, it woke me up like never before. And I feel like it just feels like a much darker place, honestly. And it's not going to stop us, of course, from waking up every day and doing our best and really just calling out the truth. But it just feels like we are in a timeline where we woke up in a universe where the bad guys won. And it feels like we've woken up in a universe where everybody could tell the bad guys won and we are trying to break the system and it's simply not happening because they have so much damn power. What's next? I don't know. I feel like this is kind of the timeline we're in. I feel like there was an alternate reality that where America was independent, it was sovereign, where there wasn't a pro-Israel takeover of the US government, and that alternate reality passed us on November 22nd of 1963. I think there was just a split in the universe timeline, and now this is kind of where we're at. So that's the unfortunate reality I feel like we're in. Anyways, guys, if you want to support my channel, I would really appreciate if you could give this a thumbs up and subscribe as well. And also super gifts and chats help me do these videos more often for you guys. Otherwise, let me know what your thoughts are.